Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg-Shaped. And today I'm joined by an old friend, somebody who has been on quite a journey using his passion and knowledge and skills and his best mate to create something that I'm using quite regularly, probably not regularly enough, and people all over the country and probably the planet are now using to make games better, make coaching better, make conversations with players, athletes better, and it's improving the game. I love it. I am inspired by these guys. Their enthusiasm is absolutely outstanding. And who better to talk about the journey of Coach Logic than founder, co-creator, businessman, all those things, the big boss, Andy Muir. Hello, sir.
That's quite the introduction. Quite the introduction. I'll just and thank you for that. Appreciate it. You know, when you said mate, it reminded me of you were comparing a night for Scottish volleyball, and there was an auction going, and you stitched me up when I came back from the toilet. So thanks, mate.
That was quite a night. I loved that. That was very cool. Fun, yeah.
So, no, thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm delighted. And Coach Logic is making something that everybody probably thought was difficult to access accessible, and you've developed it. I mean, it's come a million miles from when you first started. How did it start?
Well, so Mark Cairns obviously is co-founder. We were literally just chatting about software and how it could be better used. And then it actually started out, there was a wee gym program chat, maybe using it for that. And then we looked more at video. So at the time, Mark was teaching. I was lecturing at Edinburgh College. So Mark was at Watson's teaching. I was lecturing at Edinburgh College. We were both coaching separately, but we were playing together at Curry. So ultimately, there was video. Like, it's such a powerful asset in terms of learning and lots of other things as well. And it was just not getting used that well. So we kind of had that, if you like, 360 view from a player's perspective and from a coach and from a learning perspective as to how powerful it can be if you can put it in the hands of the players. And there was just, I think as well at that time, it probably still does, like video just got used as a way to point out people's mistakes. And everyone just hides. If we were going to come point mistakes, people hide from that. So how do you, again, over time, how do you make it a much more positive experience for those that are in the video? And also, there's also like the ease of use side of things as well, making it easy. I remember sitting in a changing room and, you know, the video's up using Windows Media Player, whatever it was. Coach has got a bit of paper with bits of times on it and got to one of those times and couldn't remember why they'd written it down. and you've also got as well just that situation where in your experience, and you know, there's between 20 and 30 players sitting in a changing room, and if you're only ever talking about one or two players at that point as well. So again, how do you, using an education thing, how do you flip the classroom, right, and get that kind of stuff out beforehand so you can hit the ground running at training? And although in saying that, a cold November evening up in Millennia, you might want to spend a little bit longer.
I remember speaking to a coach that, just exactly as you said, took quite a lot of a Tuesday night to show the video and spent less time on the grass making the difference, making players better. The use of the like talking about flipping the classroom, getting people to view things before they get there. Players have egos, don't they? I mean, they like to see themselves. How do you get the analytical bit across?
It's a good point, because like video's a massive part of our life, right, these days. And I'll reel off a couple of stats just as you've asked that. Like Generation Z, which unfortunately we're a bit too old for, like the stats on them that they'll watch 60 videos per day, right? So if they're watching 60 videos per day, they're not watching hour-long movies, you know, it's short clips. So we kind of look at, rather than thinking about a video analysis, as much as anything, thinking about it as player engagement. And it's about saying, right, well, it's a bit of a phrase, but what are the big rocks within the game? Go and identify those. And rather than worrying about stats, because actually, going back a step, like we work with a lot of clubs, like amateur clubs as such, a lot of schools, universities. Yeah, there's some more elite environments, if you like, on the platform, but they don't have time for stats. But what they do have time and get a huge amount of benefit from is identifying something that happened in the game and having a coaching moment around that, having a learning moment. So it's more for us about how do you pull out those key moments from a video, which will be there, and learning from them. And if that learning starts with the players identifying stuff because they're used to looking at video on their phones and commenting on stuff, then all the better.
And the dialogue can be pretty free and open. There's no hiding place, is there? When the video goes, I can remember right at the beginning when I first used Coach Logic, I gave a player a pretty hard time because he was absolutely burst with 20 minutes to go. And it wasn't until I watched the video and I realised it was actually my fault because he didn't know what his role was. And he was trying to do his job and about 3 other people's job. So his fitness wasn't an issue. It's just that I hadn't coached him to understand what his role was. And on the Tuesday night, I apologised to him. But that was still quite coach-led. The way you're engaging with Generation Z, I suppose you're calling them, is by creating these little videos that they can digest. Are the players giving you feedback and then you're tailoring what you produce?
Yeah, so it's the players. Ultimately, the best users of Coach Logic are the ones that get the players to drive it. So a couple of things on that in terms of the hiding place, and I'll just use Mark as an example. We can talk about him positively if he's not here. But he, it was an example really early on where it's maybe similar to what you were talking about. There was something happened in a line out, and basically it hit off a guy's head, right? And it wasn't good. It's not what you're trying to achieve, right? So he's on the touchline and he's going bonkers. But anyway, before he gave his opinion, he found that clip, sent it out, and said, discuss. And that's all he said. And it came back, there was loads of really good feedback that came back. And actually what it boiled down to, it was just a bit of a communication issue. So he went technical this and technical on this and that and the other thing. And it just turned out there's a miscommunication. So there's that side of things that, if you ask the players a question, give them the chance, even if they've not found the clip, you'll get some really rich information. And as a coach, you'll learn more because you understand better what your players understand. So that's really powerful. The other thing that Mark does really well, obviously, up at Curry, is he's like really positive. Like he doesn't ignore if stuff needs to be better. He doesn't ignore that, but he's really positive to the extent that it positively affects the players' performance because they want to be on video. Like they want to see them doing those good things on video. And actually, it was one of the players saying, right, go and, in terms of his sort of three key areas, go and find out, go and show us when you've done really good stuff in these areas rather than me telling when you've done stuff wrong all the time. And that player performance improved. And part of that was down to the fact that the player was desperate to then go and watch the video and to see all the things they'd done well. So just that change of mindset is really, really important.
Where are you and Mark getting your buzz? Where are you getting the excitement from the things that you're developing?
I think I think going back to the sort of teaching and coaching, I still coach, by the way, the mighty Curry Chieftains P3s, back doing that again. I think just we like helping people. Do you know what I mean? So whilst we can't directly help every single player or coach that uses Coach Logic, we'd like to think that the platform really supports players and coaches. So therefore we are helping people. And it's a bit cheesy, right? But like being part of that team, even though we're not directly part of that team, and that's really important to us. Is like we want there to be good environments, like Bruce, right? That how powerful sport is, like in terms of the lessons you get on the field and how they sort of reflect off the field, away from the sport. And I just think stuff like that's so important. So for me, if we're playing a small part in improving those environments. And you know what, great, if players go on and end up getting caps for the country and they use Coach Logic, great. But actually, if they've just had a better experience in the environment they're in for Coach Logic, then that's really cool to us as well. So
you took a big jump. I mean, the two of you were in reasonably comfortable professions. Holidays are outstanding. Finish at whatever time, your evenings are free. And then the two of you decided to do. And I remember when you were sitting in Starbucks all day using their Wi-Fi, and then you got stopped by, was it Reporting Scotland, to give, was it a taste test on something? I was peeing my pants laughing because the Starbucks was just behind you and the two of you were there. What was that again?
It was a cake. It was exactly that. It was some sort of cake test, and we ended up on Reporting Scotland. in our both of us, by the way, had our branded work gear of our actual jobs.
That's right. I remember that.
So that was a while back. Actually, we sometimes go back to HQ, as we refer to it, every now and again, just for a reminisce. They were different days, but yeah, do you know, like, I think you use the phrase like taking the plunge and stuff there, taking a giant leap or whatever. I think it's just a massive dose of naivety. and you mentioned the holidays, and I think it probably took us 5 years to get the same amount of holidays you get in 1 year as a teacher after that. So again, we always thought, like, as we were lucky in our roles, because we could kind of balance them a little bit, even still be full time and get Coach Logic up and running. And then both of us were fortunate enough that we were able to kind of go part time first. And maybe, there might be some people thinking, why would you not just go for it? But it's just life circumstances at that time. It's the right thing to do. And then eventually we took the plunge and went full time.
And when you went full time, you were, what's the term, hot desking, and you were just sort of dotting around looking for what was the break to go, right, okay, we're now proper business people.
I don't think that's happened. No, sometimes we get things right every now and again. Or as this is the lessons, right? So one of my first ever rugby coaches had the phrase of, if you can't be good, be lucky. So yeah, there's a bit of that. But yeah, sometimes it dawns on you, like, that you've got what you're doing, like, you've got responsibility for other people, you've got responsibility for your family as well, and I guess you just try and sort of quickly move on from that and just keep moving forward, because like, especially with these last 2 years or whatever, it's not easy. Like, I'm not here to sit and say it's easy, but it can be really satisfying, and you just got to keep believing that you're doing the right thing, and just keep getting one foot in front of the other, or one toe in front of the other sometimes.
But you've done so much. You must be able to sit here now and look back and go, I'm pretty proud of that. I know you've got hopes for the future, and there's still, you've still got a way to go in your working life, and Coach Logic hopefully will last a very, very long time. But you must be able to look back and reflect and go, we've done some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, we could. No, you're right. So we have to you have to get reminded sometimes. Like, you have to get reminded sometimes. Just some of the stuff that we've done. One of the ones we actually were out in. We got to Japan in the World Cup in 2019. We were England Rugby used it for their coach education, and we basically went out and presented at their training education conference during the World Cup, and got ourselves along to the Scotland-Japan game, which was great for rugby, but wasn't that great for Scotland. So stuff like that, you don't forget about them, but I've never been a professional sportsman, but you hear that, like, professional sportsmen say, yeah, do you know what, when I stop, I might look back and be really proud, but at the moment you're just looking ahead all the time. So but sometimes people do remind us that we've done some good stuff. So
No, you have. You've done some amazing stuff, and it's a really cool tool to use because it makes amateur schools feel probably that little bit more professional. You and I came through a really weird period in rugby where we grew up and the game was amateur, and then it was this shamateurs kind of thing, and then it became professional, and nobody really knew what that was. And it was thrown around in the amateur game a lot. Oh, we want to be more professional. We want to be a professional setup, and people took that to mean different things. But video was definitely one of those tools that set people apart, but it probably wasn't being used that well. Did you have examples of this is nonsense? I think I can do this better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just come. Do you know one of the big things is so with Coach Logic, the fact that it is so collaborative, and actually going back to that Japan trip, we were there, and Ali Donaldson, who you know well, asked Mark, said, "Are you going to be able to like tag the game this week, analyze the game this week?" Mark said, "I've not analysed it for the last 6 weeks. It's the players that have been doing it all." So stuff like that is great, and that's really important, right? It's just to give that opportunity to people rather than, again, and this is where I think it's been really important, and I think what sets us apart from our competition, because obviously we've got competition, is coming from that teaching background. There's no point in giving a video to a coach or an analyst and them disappearing off for 4 hours and coming back and telling everyone else what they've learned. Like they don't cross the white line, right? So the earlier you can get the players involved in that process, the better. And you've obviously seen it at the school as well. There's been, you guys at the school use Coach Logic really, really well, and hopefully it makes a little bit of difference and benefits the guys. Maybe it's not always obvious today, but I know that even like there's some guys that have gone on and actually now got capped who were really avid users of Coach Logic, even when they were injured for a full season. And that's got to have a positive effect, especially in the, that you've got to pick things up so quickly. Things move so fast. You've got to be able to pick things up quickly. And I think, I don't know if I like the phrase, but that sort of idea of being a student of the game, it gives that opportunity, and it just helps you to pick things up a lot quicker and understand why sometimes rather than just what.
And Coach Logic's a tool, isn't it? It's not the magic wand, and being used by the skillful operators, it then has that impact. I saw somebody quoted as saying Coach Logic was the reason. And I thought, well, I don't think Coach Logic was the reason. Coach Logic allowed you to do those other things, but it's making things easier, and everybody wants more time, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a professional coach, or an international coach. You would say time is the thing you want more of. Coach Logic's buying people time, and that's almost priceless. Doesn't mean you can put the prices up, Muiro, but it's almost priceless because you are giving the gift of time, and you're letting it be digested probably in the way that now everybody's walking around with a computer in their pocket. That's helping the dialogue, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like massively. Like that makes a massive difference. And everyone else is putting their prices up these days, Bruce. So surely we're allowed to one day. But and going back to what you're saying about like Coach Logic, like it's not the answer. It's a platform. It's a tool. I don't know if you'll ever listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast. I know I shouldn't be promoting competition on here. Bruce,
that's all right. We're one big happy family, Muiro.
Yeah, but what he talks about, like, says to these people on the podcast, like, what would you put on a billboard? And it got me thinking about this one day. And actually, I think what I would put is "Don't forget the people." And that might seem like a weird thing as someone who's involved in building technology, but
I love that.
Logic, it doesn't work without people, right? It doesn't work without people. Like from building it to using it. So don't forget the people.
That is class. I love that. So going right back to the very beginning, what were you doing? What is a Coach Logic like? I'm a teacher. I go to class. I teach a lesson. I mark the papers. I do. what does Andy Muir and Mark Cairns fill their time with? What are you up to?
Just annoying people.
Apart from changing my password.
Yeah. Actually, on that front, I guess like normally we'd be out and about seeing people a lot more than we have done over the last couple of years, which is obviously the same for everyone. So we'd go visiting people. We'd be at various events. We would obviously try and encourage people to use Coach Logic who weren't. We'll try and help people who are using Coach Logic to get more out of it. There's lots of other boring stuff that we have to do as well around the business. And actually, I know we obviously saw each other last week at like the Roslyn Park Sevens as well. Like just amazing. I think it's maybe 600 schools that go there across the week, and like that opportunity to connect with people was really powerful. So finding opportunities like that to actually connect with people face to face is really important. But yeah, and I guess we spend a bit of time future gazing as well, and trying to just but at the same time making sure we stay focused as well on, we've got certain areas. I just think like with Coach Logic, there's, in terms of like a learning platform within sport, I don't think there's a better one. So we need to really try and focus on making sure that people are aware of us and we can help them out and what have you as well. But at the same time, just helping people, right? Just helping people improve their environment is probably the big thing. That's what we probably would want to spend most of our time doing.
You're a skilled man with language, my friend. You're a skilled man. I like it. I remember way back in the day, I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation when we almost worked together and then you bailed out. You saw the iceberg and got in the lifeboat. But you said, what about we change the name of training to learning? Do you remember that?
I don't know. I can, not specifically, I can remember I would have been doing something like that. Yeah.
And I get that. I absolutely, because training's not it's not a phrase I particularly enjoy. It's a bit like drill. What drill are we doing? I hate that phrase because it is the learning. That would take a pretty big culture shift. But you two are at the forefront of creating a culture. I don't know if you're changing a culture, enhancing whatever it is, but you're definitely involved in the culture of sport, of the programs that you're involved with. You're definitely doing something to the culture within that. That's a pretty powerful place to be.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I think over the time so just so people listen to this are aware, like Mark and I have never written a line of code in our lives. So that's, and I think that's a positive. That's why we and Mark leads more on the product stuff than I, by a long way, than I do. But that's why I think it kind of falls back to people and to cultures and to environments, and to try and improve them. And I think just over time I've just become more and more interested in people, like and how people can help other people just be better. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I'll use the Roslyn Park as an example, but speaking to a guy who successful businessman, does some coaching, does some leadership stuff as well, and we're just having a chat about like environments, and he used a phrase which I don't think it was his. It's a good one though. It was like high performing teammates. So you're a high performing teammate rather than just a high performer. And that just stuff like that really sticks with me, because like are you a high performing teammate in whatever you do? So you'll have seen loads of examples within your own team. Last week, Bruce, not across the whole time, but there's a kid playing for Brighton College last week. He was just so enthusiastic towards his teammates. You could just hear him. You could hear him, and there's like 18 or 20 pitches. You almost hear him across the whole grounds, and it's brilliant. Like, so you think, oh, that's cool. Like, he's really encouraging his teammates, and they're thinking about that high performing teammate. He actually won player of the tournament at Sedbergh Tens at the weekend. So he's got that energy about him, right? And he's obviously a good player. But are you the good player that people want to play with, right? So if you're not, then you're not a high performing teammate. So for me, that's really important. I saw a really nice example, and so I spot these little examples. Someone will say, like, I don't know, maybe people ask like, how was the game? It's like, I don't know, but did you see what so and so did? So, and there was a really nice example actually at the game. So Scotland England women's international there at I don't know what's the official name, Mini Murrayfield.
The damn health.
Damhealth
Quick, or we'll get in trouble.
Damhealth Stadium. So Meryl Smith
Yep.
came on for her first cap. And that like I just saw just before I think there's a scrum or whatever, she came on, and that stadium's amazing because you're right on top of it and you can see and feel everything. And Lisa Thompson was obviously playing at 12 outside her. And I don't know what she said, but she shouted at her, gave her like a double thumbs up. And just, it was almost like, whether she said it or not, just like you've got this. Do you know what I mean? Like, just as a teammate, just like lifting people up and, just helping people. Like, I think that's massive. And I'll like, and just to go like a bit of a left field example, Bruce, like, I don't think that's restricted to being in a team. So, and since you made me blush a bit at the start, like I'll use you an example. So you would be, I would say you could, I've been thinking about this, right? You would be a high performing teammate for rugby. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're lifting people up in rugby, you're putting his best foot forward. I don't know, maybe in private, you maybe need to bring some people down as well at times, right? But do you know what I mean? Like, you've got the best interest of rugby at heart, and you'll do the best things to make sure that it becomes a better place to be. So I kind of went way off there, but
no, I love it, and that's you're a very skilled thinker, but you've also got a great use of language, and I love that. If you'd known now, if you'd known when you were 21 what you know now, would you have been a better player?
I think I'm getting a better player the longer it is since I played, if that's
what me too.
Do you know, actually, I think about this often. The one thing is I trained pretty hard, right? I think the one thing I wish I'd known a bit more about at that time was nutrition, actually. I just think that the video is great and you can learn a lot from video. I think maybe looking back, you might have, if I'd known what I know now, I would have looked at it more positively rather than always seeing the things I wasn't doing right, rather than thinking, well, just almost being a bit blind because I didn't do that right, but not really having is maturity a good word? I don't know, maturity to sort of understand, well, what could I have done differently there? It's not I wasn't doing anything wrong, my intentions were good, but I just didn't get it right, so how can I make that better? And then, the nutrition one I think is quite interesting. I just think like it would be similar sort of state. Like there was just maybe I should have known better, right? I was sports science, I was doing a bit of S&C stuff, but just understanding around about better balance between protein and carbs. Like I don't know, I'm sure it was like back in the day it was like carbs.
I remember sitting at an under-19 Scotland session on a Wednesday night. And that was it was eat Jaffa cakes. Here's the snacks that you should have. And I don't think I heard the word protein mentioned. But looking back, the thing I'm kind of getting at, and maybe this is just personal, I can't remember really getting any feedback about me. I can remember sitting in changing rooms and getting team feedback, and I can remember being told, why did you kick it, or why didn't you kick it, but I don't. You're saying that you made a mistake and you knew you made it, but you didn't. I don't think I had the knowledge or the time or the direction to really make many things better. Now, I then look at people like Chris Patterson, who I got to be very close to. I mean, he was relentless in his practice and his preparation, relentless, and just made all of us think, what is he doing? But he got the results. I'm not laying the blame at any coach for me being hopeless like that. There's a fair bit of internal issue there, but I don't remember getting a huge amount of feedback. I look at what goes on the Coach Logic platform with the things that we direct players to the examples that you guys churn out, and I think, wow, how lucky are these kids?
Yeah, it's a really good point. The thing you've made me think of there is I don't remember getting asked a lot of questions. How did you bring that up?
No.
And again, to use like Mark as an example, it's easier to lift him up when he's not here, right? You know what we're like. But so they had their semi-final of the league last week against Accies, and they give so much ownership to the players. Like neither him nor Ali were at training all week because they were down at Roslyn Park, and they still went. You know, it didn't affect them. You know, they still went and won their game, right? So I think we were all together Monday night, but then they didn't see them again until they got together on Saturday. So I'm not sure that would have gone down 15, 20 years ago. So.
I remember, was it Richard Hill, the scrum half, was coaching, was it Bath years ago, and they were on a slump. So he decided not to go to the game to see if that helped. Pretty much put a nail in his own coffin, like you're gone. I'm sure it was Richard. Maybe I've done him a disservice there, but I think that's one of the things I'm now realizing, how much players also want that responsibility. And that's maybe come from the advent of professionalism, because in the olden days, you turned up at training, you wanted to be told what to do, knock 7 colours out each other, and then go home for your fry up or your chippy on the way home, and you did it all again on Thursday night, and then you played on Saturday and you had a few beers, and the demand for performance now is probably greater.
Yeah, do you know, I guess maybe we're obviously a bit younger, but right, maybe that's how you were getting treated at work. Most people were getting treated at work, so it was you just got treated the same way at sport as you did at work, but you had a bit of a release because you could go and knock whatever out of each other, right? So whereas now, people say, "Oh, you can business can learn a lot from sport," but I think the other way around as well. Sport can learn a lot from business and the type of environments that they might create, and giving people responsibility to sort of crack on. So maybe there's sports change, coaching's change. I think, like you say, the world has changed in that sense, where everyone's just got access to, and sometimes it can be a bit overbearing at times, right? There's so much information available. So how do you then create an environment where you're supporting people to find not the right answer, the wrong answer, but to find an answer, help them discover some stuff for themselves, maybe not even find an answer, but just keep learning. So yeah, I think just like you say, sports change, but I think it's a big statement, Bruce, but the world has changed as well.
Being changed by people like you. Now, you're not just doing rugby, you're involved in other sport. You're heavily involved with hockey. Does it matter that, I mean, you and Cairnsy are both teachers and, have knowledge of a broad range of activities, and you can apply things that you know from one into another, both smart cookies. I get all that, but how easy is it to get into other sports and activities?
Yeah, so we, coach logic specifically can be used across any sport. We've got, I think probably the most outrageous one would be, or most left field would be modern pentathlon.
Of course you have.
Has used it. So, but most of it's mostly, like, it does get mostly used by team sports, to be honest with you. Just in that sort of environment where you've got that collaboration happening naturally. So going back to what you're saying about coach logic is not the answer, it's just trying to improve the environment in. So in team sport, collaboration happens naturally. So if you imagine whatever sport you're coaching, if you're in a team sport, your on-field coaching, if you like, will involve feedback, conversations with the whole group, with small groups and with individuals. So it's just trying to, I guess, mimic that in that online world, so that you can make better use and give people that opportunity to have an opinion, right? And it's anecdotal, but we've heard it brings, you get more opinions from more people with that online setting rather than sitting in a changing room. And there's always going to be dominant characters in that changing room. So therefore, do some people keep their opinions to themselves as a result of that? Whereas in that sort of online, it's just another safe environment that you can create that maybe you get contribution from a wider base. So that transfers into any sport, really.
You're making coaches better too. So the ripple effect is you're going to you're going to create better play. Not necessarily you, but better players are going to grow and develop and learn. How big a kick do you get out of the coach education stuff you do?
Yeah, it's cool because ultimately one of our taglines, if you like, is more than analysis. This is player experience. Is if coaches are better, then players are getting a better experience. So, like, and it's interesting. Like, so I'm like using myself as an example, just quickly, like coaching that P3 stuff. We're not videoing and stuff like that, right? But I want those players. I want that session that they do on a Sunday morning. I want that to be their best sporting experience all week. So the coach education stuff is cool because you'd like to think that if they're connected in a community and they can learn off each other, it will improve their coaching, which will improve the player experience. If they're watching the video back and tagging out some behaviours when they're coaching and learning from those and sharing those with a more experienced coach or a mentor, then that's going to ultimately improve their coaching and lead to a better player experience. So that's it's really good to be involved in that stuff. And again, the other side of it as well is I think it really helps the coaches because by doing some of their coach education development digitally and being hands-on, it helps maybe understand like the world that their players who are more than likely going to be younger than them, the type of world that they're working in as well. So just it's just quite cool to like be helping people, right? And improving their experience, improving other people's experience.
During lockdown, I had fears that when we came out of lockdown, because that was all we were doing was consuming stuff online. I was worried what training sessions were going to look like. That we're going to have people juggling with knives at rugby and then running like there was just so much creativity flying around. How did Coach Logic manage through those weird kind of 18 months, 2 years?
To be honest, it was tough, right? It really was tough because, as I've I think alluded to earlier, is most of our teams they're not elite teams that are playing on TV week in, week out. So like that sporting world, it didn't really happen for 18 months. So from that side, from a business perspective, it was a challenge. I think from the other side of that, we jumped on the webinar bandwagon at the start of everything as well, and actually it was a good learning experience for us, from that side of things. And we just tried to, I guess you've got to keep trying to make the platform relevant. So, but sometimes you're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So you hear of examples of one of the schools. Do you know, actually, I think it gave us a newfound respect for the level of understanding that young people have of what they're doing. So there was one of the schools down south. They were fortunate enough to have a connection to Ben Earl, England back row, and is he Saracen's back row? Yeah. So what they did is they got hold for the students, the under 16s, got hold of some footage of Ben Earl. They used Coach Logic to clip up his game, and then he came on a call with them, and they gave him feedback. And within a few minutes, they'd identified what the 3 IDPs were that Ben Earl had been given by England.
Wow.
Like, that's cool, right?
That is really cool.
And going back to your point again, like with Coach Logic isn't the answer, but it provides those types of opportunities.
That is really cool. All right, we're getting near, but because I love listening to you, I think you got a great use of language, and I know that you and Cairnsy are not bound by anything really other than your own imaginations. Can I please come and sit in a strategy meeting or at Starbucks with a coffee with you and Cairnsy and just observe, because you've come up with a few things where you said we call it this, or we use this, or we allow ourselves to do this. How do those meetings go? Do you have an agenda and away you go? Are you focused? I mean, you're both mates as well, so I know that you talk nonsense and the two you get distracted. But I mean, you're business partners now too. What are those meetings like? Those strategy? Where's the future for us?
Sometimes they're not meetings; they're just conversations. Actually, it's actually probably one of our challenges, right? Is it's great to run a business alongside a mate, but then that brings its own challenges where it does sometimes. You can't be blue sky all the time, right? You've got to get stuff done as well. So absolutely, yes, you can come and have a coffee. I don't think you would use the word strategy after having a coffee with us very often. And actually, you use the word focus, and I know you'd sent through a couple of things about learnings and what have you. And you actually alluded to it earlier as well, is I think we made the mistake at the start is, sorry, let's put the other way, in terms of a learning, like effort doesn't equal focus, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
I think we've always been really good at effort. I think our challenge over time is to always bring more focus. And that focus can obviously change, right? And not without caveating myself, but you understand what I mean. It's like, I think it's really easy to say, right, come on, let's go. We're focused on smashing this business or whatever. So you just end up putting in lots of effort into lots of little different things. So yeah, I think that would be a big challenge. And I think that would be, if you were sat there with us, you'd be like, you guys are all over the place. You want to focus for a minute?
You're both really creative, though. I mean, you've got little sparks of ideas going off. Do you take notes on your phone? Do you carry a notepad around? Do you think of them and then forget about them? How do you
All of the above.
how do you sort of manage your creativity?
Yeah, we've got various tools. So I will actually. It's a weird thing actually. I'll use so we use like Slack to communicate. We've got Trello for organization. I'll take a note on my phone. Sometimes I prefer to write stuff down. Just depends on the mood I'm in, and but it's also trying to understand, like, the helpful thing of writing these things down is, if you take the time to write them down, you work out, well, is that something for now? Is that something for later as well? So yeah, it's a bit of a mix. Maybe that's what I need to commit to a little bit more, is actually having, well, if we're being creative, it goes. We are pretty organised. I'm underselling ourselves here slightly, but it's just reminding ourselves of staying focused will ultimately help us get, the sort of, the phrase of like, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, that type of thing. So it's easy to see the end, but not the journey sometimes. So.
I love that the two of you have made your passion into your job, and I love hearing you talk about it and seeing how excited the two of you get. And although Cairnsy's got rubbish put downs and insults, I do love the guy. I just look at what you're up to, and I think I'd love to see that crystal ball and where you're going to end up. When you're future gazing, what do you see?
I think Coach Logic, like, we wanted to be like the platform of choice for player engagement. So there's lots of other sports technologies out there. So like your GPS data, there's sort of those more local analysis systems. There's all this sort of even like the automated video capture. Like, we want, if you've got any of that other kind of data, whether it be video or anything like that, we want Coach Logic to be the place where you get the most value out of that data.
You just blow my mind. The two of you were teachers, lecturers, working in education, and then you become business people driving this idea that you had. Have you had a mentor, or are you just thrashing things out between the two of you and seeing what happens?
I don't know if I've ever put a label on someone as a mentor, but there's definitely both of us people that we would lean on, and you would take stuff from time to time. And actually, coming out of COVID, there was a group of, so Kirsty Bathgate, who runs Gearing for Growth, and there was this sort of leadership sort of founders training that we went on, and she set up a group for some of us that went through as the same cohort, and just actually having, so Kirsty's really experienced, and a lot of the other people in the group are really experienced, having people around you who have been through it or are going through it, is really powerful. So yeah, sometimes and there's some other people that I know that have just had a huge influence on keeping sane sometimes. So yes, I don't think I've ever put a formal label on having a mentor, but I definitely see the value in having people that you can lean on from time to time.
No, it's gold. Listen, my man, we're about there. I've not teed you up for this, so this is going to show if you ever actually pay attention to what's going on. I think I know where this might go. I think I know. I'm not often able to, but I think I know where this might go. So at the end of these pods, I ask people to finish a sentence for me. So I'm interested to see what happens to Andy Muir. So Andy Muir, for you, happiness is?
Being a good teammate.
Okay, right. That wasn't quite. I thought it was going to be helping people, but I'll take that. Being a good teammate, kind of the same.
If you're being a good teammate, you're helping, aren't you? So.
Yeah, I love it. Wow, you are a hell of a teammate, my friend. I absolutely love it, and I just know that things are going to go from strength to strength. It's been an absolute joy to speak to you, Muiro, and hopefully I'll see you in the flesh very soon.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it, Bruce. Take care.
Cheers, my man. Bye-bye. Gotta love it. Gotta love people that are able to make their passion into their job, and I've got no doubt him and his sidekick Cairnsy are going to go on to bigger and better and greater things, helping people and improving the game and improving performance. I love it, and I look forward to speaking to them very soon. If you've enjoyed it, you can listen on Apple and Spotify. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube. If you enjoyed, please leave a review. If you've got nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. Tell your friends, go back and look at the other episodes. I'm sure there's something there to keep you entertained. But in the meantime, my name is Bruce Aitchison from the Happiness Is podcast, and my happiness is egg-shaped. I look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon.